Before we get started, does anyone here, I'm just curious, is there anyone here who lives in Oak Tree that's here just as, an observer? Just checking. If you got an hour to kill, you might as well just see what's going on. So thank you for coming out today. I'm with Al Vega, and I'm Mike Haggerty. You all know Al, you all know myself. So what we are here to do today is to talk, to listen, to answer some questions, and hopefully encourage a few folks by the end of this session to go on a little journey with us related to your electric bills. So we don't have a fancy presentation to provide. We have some thinking, some information, and some next steps. And outside of that, we hope that this is a continued conversation and effort on all of our behalf to undertake this. So that's our goal. I know it might be a hope for some of you to have an exact number in mind, a clear plan in mind. But we're not going to walk away with that because we need to talk to people individually to make that happen. So that's ultimately where we would like to end up. So let me backtrack a little bit, and then we'll take it from there. So what's our aim as Frederick Living? Our aim as Frederick Living is ultimately, not today, not tomorrow, not next week, but ultimately, our hope is that we, as a community, similar to what Garden Spot does, is that we would pay all electric bills to PECO through Frederick Living. We would not have an instance where individual residents at individual cottages would have their own contracts or their own bills through PECO that they would pay. That the bills would come to us, we would pay the bills, and we would increase resident monthly fees accordingly. That would be the hope. Is this something that we think is going to happen immediately? No. Is this something that we think long-term will benefit residents and the community? Yes. We believe that we can reduce anxiety on a month-to-month basis for residents who have concerns about their bills. We believe that we can have instant access to usage for residents, and if something's out of whack, we can proactively go out there and see what's going on and fix things. We think that there are instances, we know that, there are instances where residents may sign up for an energy supplier that has a good introductory fee, and then after a few months jacks up their rates. We can eliminate that issue. We also believe, in speaking with our energy supplier, that we would be able to eventually reduce our electric rates on campus, generally speaking, by bundling them together with what we're paying for Oak Tree, what we're paying for Magnolia House, what we're paying for Aspen Village, etc. So those are our long-term goals of taking this step. As we have shared before, we're not in a position right now where we're going to say, all right, guys, time to get on board. That would be nice from an operational perspective. It would be nice to say, here's what we're doing. This is the end of the story. Tough stuff. It's not how we like to operate, though. You have been paying your bills individually for the entirety of your time here. And if that's something that you want to continue to do, that is how we're going to set it up. But if anyone would like to voluntarily take this step at this point, that's what we're encouraging people to do. I'm going to pause there before we get into how this could occur. So, before we take any more steps, does anyone have any questions, thoughts, or concerns on this topic?
Okay, it's the total electric bill, not just the heating portion, correct? Correct. Okay. Will that be prorated depending on the size of the unit and the number of residents in the unit? And does Frederick currently, for the electric you have with PECO, is that considered a business account? And is the arrangement we have with PECO, that Frederick has with PECO right now for like Oak Tree and Magnolia, is that considered a business rate, and is that cheaper than a residential rate?
Several questions. Let me see if I can roll through all of them. So that gets to the how of how we would go about this, and it's twofold. One, for anyone in this room, if you are interested in exploring this as an option for yourself, what we would like to do is we would like to simply get your name, get your accommodation number, and your phone number. And our aim is to obtain a year's worth of electric bills from you. Now, you might have them organized in a neat fashion somewhere in your house, and you'd be able to grab them, give them to us, and that would be the start of the process. You may be more like me and not have that readily at your fingertips. And if that's the case, then we could assist you in some way, shape, or form, whether reaching out to PECO, whether going through your online account and obtaining that information. Why? Why would we want your bills? Al, can you give a little bit of an overview? There's a couple of things that we're going to monitor on that bill. And I always get my names wrong in that particular item.
Yeah, so the bills themselves, I know that they show your address, your location, meter number. They show not just how much you're paying for that month, which that's important, but also shows the fees that you're getting paid for, the supplier, the distribution fees, the supplying fees, the rate fee that you're paying for right now. It shows us if you're paying for just electric or if you are in the heating rate, because there's two different rates that PECO uses, and then it shows actually the amount of electricity that you're using. That's the most important part for us right now, is how much you're using, how many kilowatts of you're using per day, per month, per year. Because once we know that information, we are able to average it out for the year and then decide, come up with a number to give you guys of how much it's going to be. And to answer your question about the size of the unit, yes, we are going to be looking at the different accommodations we have, like the villas are different size than the meadows, and the meadows, some of them have a second floor that is finished and usable, and then they have the maples wood over here. So we are looking at all that information, so we are able to come up with a fee.
So what we would do in that scenario is, okay, if you have your bills handy, or if we help get your bills, we would have a 12-month view of, okay, here's what we understand their electric usage is over the course of a year. We would take that to our energy supplier, and we would say, all right, what would a realistic annual usage look like looking into next year? We would get that number, we would divide it by 12, and we would propose that to you and say, starting on whatever date we agree upon, we, Frederick Living, would pay PECO, and you wouldn't anymore. And your monthly fee would go up by this agreed upon amount. And that would be it. We would get the bill. If you use it a little bit more than you would otherwise, that is a risk that we are willing to take to get individuals to join us in this endeavor. If you use less, well, that's your choice. But That is how we are approaching it and how we are looking at this particular scenario. Lou?
As Al was saying, we are presently in what is known as the winter rate, which right now is 0.07339. The other rate, that has to do with your transmission, by the way. The other rate is your generation rate. How many people here have another provider besides PECO on the generation rate? Raise your hand. There's only one person I know of that made that mistake, and I met with them, and I still think that they were honed, but it was kind of pulled on them by mistake. And I asked them to call the Attorney General's office. I don't know if they'll do that or not, because I think they were scammed. But 95% of people aren't doing that, Mike. But the real issue comes down to how the systems work. Okay? That's what it comes down to. And that's one of the most important things we have to do with the systems. If I didn't have that rate for the winter, I would have spent, or would have to have spent, another $315 for my bills by not having that special rate. So if I added that to my present bills for the winter, I'm up to $3,000 just for November, December, January, February, and I haven't got March bills yet. When you look at the rest of the months, that are your summer months basically, it's a lot less, okay? Also, two stories. I think 80% of the people that haven't used the second store, they have their vent. I told them to close their vents. It saved them $60, $80 on the big months. So those are factors that have to be really considered as you move in this direction. I'm not against moving in a direction. I think it can work. Do you actually have a cost right now, what would cost you? Do you have one that you're paying now for the apartments?
No, I don't have an opportunity to provide you a clear picture of what the cost would be. That's why it would be important in these scenarios, if we're going to move forward with anyone individually, would be to collect that information so that we can get as much of a picture as possible. And I agree with you. If there is an issue with the efficiency of systems, the best way that we're going to understand that issue, or one of the ways that we can understand that issue, is having access to the monthly usage and bills and output directly ourselves. So that is a benefit that we see to this as well, so that we can monitor usage, we can monitor effectiveness, we can monitor cost directly. Because, as I've shared before, we have been pretty open, particularly in the last 2 winter seasons, of being very adamant of saying, please share your bill with us, share your bill with us, share your bill with us. It doesn't happen that often. But if we have it directly, we don't have to jump up and down and say, well, tell us what you spent, tell us what you used, show us. We have that instantly, and then we would be able to act on it. So,
You need to have the temperature also of each person.
Yeah, my question is in regards to temperature. I know some of us keep it warmer than others. How would that be adjusted?
it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It would be personally utilized by each individual. So, as maybe I'm not being clear in this particular way. Let's say, and this is a number pulled out of thin air. I'm not saying that this is going to be the case. Let's say you raise your hand and you say, okay, I want to join. I want to try this out. Let's take a look. You give us your bills for the past 12 months. We come back with a number and say, your monthly fee is going to go up by $300 a month. I don't know if that, again, number pulled out of thin air. Let's say $30 a month. We'll just have some fun with it. That's easier. Your monthly fee is going to go up $30 a month. Okay? You're going to be out of the electric business. You're not going to get any more bills. You're not going to get anything about it. You, as you are now, are free to utilize your heating system or your cooling system however you would like. We are not going to come back 2 months later and say, you were a little high. You were a little high. Here's an extra $5 on your bill this month. Now, if there are instances where we can see that there's skyrocketing rate with skyrocketing usage, then we can ask. We can say, hey, is your bill seems to be extra high. Are you using a lot? That's up to you. Or are you using a normal amount? Is something wrong with your system where it's working inefficiently? We can have that conversation. But we're not going to come back and be the heating police or the cooling police. Because we think, longer term, the more people that do this, the better off we will be. So we don't want to put people in a scenario where they don't want to sign up and join. They don't want to give it a shot. They don't want to try. So that.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying, whatever our usage is now over the past year, that's going to be the basis of what you're going to add on to the, okay. But if next year I can't stand being at 68 degrees anymore in the winter and I nudge it up to 70, my usage is going to go up. So that wouldn't be addressed until the following July. Okay, that's then on your monthly bill. I realize it's going to be added in. Will it be an itemized bill where I can see what I'm charged for electric and how much the electric goes up and how much the whole thing goes up? And is the percentage increase on the monthly going to include an increase on the electric, or is it just going to include the increase on the monthly and the electric will still be monitored separately? That's going to be a nightmare for business.
Long term, no. We're not going to itemize this on your bill. We're not going to lay this out in a particular way where here's your monthly fee, here's your electric fee. We're not going to lay it out in that particular fashion. As we have it now for this year, right, it would be an increase. We would come to an agreement and say we're going to raise your bill by $30 a month. You're out of the electric business, and we're going to move on. That's going to be lumped into your regular fee, as anything else is. So it wouldn't be an itemized piece.
So if my electric usage goes up more than that year's annual increase on the, is that still going to be on a prorated, different size units would, you know, if I go up but the guy next to me doesn't, is my bill going to go up more, and how are you going to deal with that? Or is it just going to be a wash once you're in it?
It's a good question. I don't know if I have an exact answer for that right now. What we're looking to do is encourage as many people as possible to join us in this endeavor. And what I can say for this year is this is how it will look. Right? And then moving forward, we will examine what makes sense, and then we will proceed from there. I think that's the best way that I can put it. I can't give you the year 2 we'll do this, year 3 we'll do this. This is an evolution. And the question was, once you join, you can't get out. Sounds terrible. we are all right, let's look at it this way. Anyone who's moving in starting July 1st, they're in. This is part of the drill. So I'm assuming that everyone in this room is going to live in their cottage for another 25 years. So, with that being the case, we're trying to move people in this direction and grandfather people in.
I just wanted to say that, you know, when Mike is talking and you guys are listening, this is not like something that we are just working together. We have a team of people that are professionals at this, that they have done it. We have the energy consultant, and we also have the CFO involved with this. So all these fees and stuff like that's not a number that will be coming off of our head. It's something that is going to be worked through the system, and we'll come up with those fees added. It's not like something that we just like, hey, yours, let's $30. No, it will be something that we actually worked out and a formula worked out into the fees. I just want to clarify that. It's not just Mike and I coming up with numbers.
Appreciate that. We have a couple of hands, so who I saw first, we'll start there.
Okay, I have a few questions. You just mentioned that you have a team working on this. Have you already know who will lead this as a broker or a company to implement this between PICO, transmission, and distribution? Do you have someone to do that currently?
That's fine, we can go back and forth. Yes, in short, we have an energy supplier and broker that we work with for the community as a whole, and this individual would help us in this endeavor.
Okay. What is their history as far as lowering the percent if they do this as a unit cost to all people? And why aren't they here?
That's a two-part question, so I'll give you two answers. What is their history? We have worked with this group for a considerable period of time. I don't know that I can give you an exact number on that. Why aren't they here? Because this is a first step in a long journey. That is not something that we're trying to shield anyone, and if we get to a point where we need to bring Mike in, Mike P., I always say his last name wrong, so I'm just going to call him Mike P. from A1 Energy, then we can. That's not a problem.
Okay, I assume most people keep their, I have quite a few questions, Lou, so if you don't mind, let me get through them. Most people keep their temperatures 67 to 84 degrees in heat, maybe 74 to 78 in cooling. Those that are conservative obviously will be paying more out of their pocket for those that are getting high bills. I think that's a correct statement. I think everyone will agree with that. Now, in answer to a question up there, the electric rate goes up when you change your thermostat 1 to 3%. So therefore, those that are at 67 or 68 degrees, under the new system, they'll pump it up to 72, 73, 74. And averages, every degree, it goes up 2%. So 6 degrees affects your bill 12%. I don't mean to get into stats, but you have a double whammy here. Because a lot of people, if you join in underneath an umbrella, will say, gee, I'm going to up it more in winter, and I'm going to decrease it more in summer. Just food for thought. This is my understanding. But they are electric stats. If you do not opt into this, I think you answered the question. You can stay out forever until you leave the apartment. Is that true?
At this juncture, I'm looking at this year by year. I will not say forever on pretty much anything. So I can't give you a forever statement. What I can say is this year, this is our strategy. And we'll look in a similar fashion next year. That's what I would say.
Are you averaging per house, or I thought you were lumping them in, like all the meadows that have a certain size downstairs, no upstairs, they will all have the same rate and not individual rates?
How we're going about it at the moment is for anyone, we have 15 different styles of cottage on campus, right? Between meadows and villas and dogwoods and maple woods and patio homes. So those are, 5 or 6 different groupings, but we have different sizes and square footage and things of that nature. So there's 15 different types that we have on campus. For anyone that moves in, anyone new that moves in, their monthly fee is going to be increased based on the type of accommodation and the square footage that they have. For residents in this room, for this process, we're going to be a little bit more individualized. So that's why we would look for your 12 months of bills. That's why we're going to do it a little bit differently for residents who live here now versus ones that are moving in. So that's the difference there. That's the nuance.
Okay, 2 more quickies. As people move in, I assume on the monthly bill, that electric charge that you're absorbing will put as a line item and not be included within the rent on that bill? And this last question is, if you, in 10 years from now, okay, let's say 25 years from now, we're out of this and we're not hooked into it, you have a backup generator to do Oak Tree and this whole building here. Is there a way to have a backup generator once you do this one under one umbrella for all the cottages?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I would assume this would make it easier. I also know that the cost is significant for such an operation. For the one that we got for this building, right, for Magnolia House, Aspen, et cetera, which is required for healthcare settings. That one cost us somewhere in the range of $2 million 5 years ago. So I don't know, I have no idea, but if we're looking down the line, I would love it, and I would love it for each of you. And that is a choice that we can make, right? But we would have to look at everyone and say, okay, if we're willing to take that on, here is what that would mean. Sure.
You've done this in the apartments for a long time. Do all the apartments, there are two bedrooms, there's a deluxe one that's double, do they all pay the same, or is it each different size pays a different rate in the apartments?
They all pay the same. And you look at it in a community sense, right? You know, that's the 63 or 64 apartments that are there. That have been around for 30 plus years. That's what we do.
Hi, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. You have individual controls in these apartments. Are you watching your neighbors, what they're up to? You know, it's a matter of trust that we'll try to do something reasonable. And it's worked so far for what, 30 years?
And that is the idea, but it's an evolution, right? So it's not. So again, from a Mike Haggerty standpoint, it would be easy in a sense. We just said, all right, here's the deal. Everyone's on board. That's clean. We're done. I feel though that my job would get a lot more difficult really soon if I just told everyone, sorry, we're doing this. You're out. We're not even talking about it. That's not how we like to operate. But I do appreciate that, and that's good perspective. Yes. For Oak Tree residents, they have the opportunity to have their heat up to 80 degrees, the air conditioner down to 55 degrees, and we're not knocking on their door saying, you know, you need to turn that down or turn that up. That's just not how we operate. It's part of the community as a whole. A lot of other hands. Dottie, you've had your hand up for a while.
My question is, okay, I have a coneflower, and the upstairs is finished. Presently, I keep the vents closed. The heat does rise up there, but I keep the door shut. I don't use it that much. I keep my temperature set at 67. People come to my house, especially my sister, and says, it's like a barn in here. And I say, I'm not working for PECO. So, but anyway, my question is, I'm currently on a budget plan with PECO. My bill averages a high, though it fluctuates periodically because they keep an eye on it. So my payments are like, the most I think I paid is $150 a month, keeping it at 67, and keep in mind, it's cold in my unit. I have this, and it matters a lot which way the sun hits your building. I get no sun in the back of my building whatsoever. The kitchen, the bedroom. I have 3 space heaters. I have my auxiliary off because it does not work. It only runs up my electric bill. I found that out this past winter when I got a bill for $500 for the month. And I see that, but they still have me budgeted at $150, which is great because it comes down in the summer. But in the meantime, in the winter, I'm freezing. So I'm reluctant to do anything to change that because I can live with 150. 500, 400, I see those numbers and I panic. I mean, I would love to set my temperature at 70, 71, but I won't do it because I can't afford it. I mean,
You got something? Look like you're coming. I don't hear a question specifically. I hear some thinking. Somebody add on to your thinking if that helps you or anyone else here. What I hear is a moderately, and this might sound a little dramatic, but I don't mean it so, a moderate decrease in your quality of life based on some budget consciousness. Our hope is that ultimately through this endeavor, we ease that and we eliminate that for residents. That would be our goal. That would be one of our goals, where if you were interested in this, we would have access to your bills, we would understand what's going on, we'd work with our energy supplier and with the CFO. We would provide you with a potential rate increase. We would take the electric payments from you, and then you would be able to put it at the temperature that you would like and live the way that you would like, and that is our hope. Within reason. Everyone here is within reason. That's the idea. Now, are there going to be outliers? Sure. There's people who like really, really, really warm temperatures. There's people who do like cold temperatures. That is the part of this evolution. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little sticky, but it's the right thing to do in the long term, and that's what we're aiming for. So that I hope that, since it's not a question, it doesn't answer your question, but it adds on to kind of your thinking.
well, as long as the residents go in with this, I mean, are they still going to be looking into the issues with the heating system? Because there definitely is.
Twofold. Yes, we will. So I know we have a conversation with you and some other individuals later on this month. In addition to that, this provides us with an opportunity to have immediate access to, if you were to join us, to your bill, and to view and to understand your usage and to understand any issues that may be going on so that we can proactively take a look. Because it's not always easy to, get someone to let us know that they're frustrated and upset with their bill and have us come out and take a look at their system. So are there structural changes that we're making? Yes, as you're aware. Are there individual changes that you can make? Yes, with more access to your system.
I wanted to say in regards to the Oak Tree building and how the residents are able to, move their temperature at their comfort, however they feel like it, warmer or colder, however they feel like it. It's because everyone's bill is spread out evenly. Same thing will happen if we get everyone here involved. That rate will be the same because now the fluctuation will be covered through that evenness of everyone paying the same bill. So it doesn't matter if you have your house warmer now because you want it to be warmer, or somebody else wants to wear their winter clothes inside the house in the winter because they like it that way. But everyone will be even. So that's what happens in Oak Tree because everyone is doing it. We don't see that rate change. So the same thing will happen once if everyone here and everyone that is not here will join. That will be a lot easier for everyone.
But in the meantime, there will be some fluctuations because it's not going to be everyone at once, right? But our hope is that enough people are interested to raise their hand, because all we're looking for today, in the next few weeks, all we're looking for is interest. We're not looking for, hey, sign on the dotted line. We're looking for, yeah, I'm interested. Let me get my bills for you, or help me get my bills. And then give me a proposal, and we'll take it from there. That's what we're looking for today. We're looking for interest and a willingness to raise your hand and say, all right, let's start the process and see if it works.
Just a couple of questions. Would the rates, the extra rates for the electricity be adjusted every year? And would the bills still come to us, or would they be directed to the office? And then I have one other question.
The bills would come directly to us. They wouldn't go to your house. It would have our name on it. It would say Frederick Living and then whatever your accommodation number is. That's where the bills would go. What does next year look like? I can't give you that. I can't give you that much clarity. What I can say is this is what we're looking at for the next 12 months.
All right, now, last winter was a very extremely cold winter. The units that were supplied in early September that have the sprinkler system and the heaters that were installed are set at 45 degrees to kick in. Now, last winter was an extremely cold one. Will there be like a credit for the usage? Because in effect, those units are in effect protecting the system with those heaters, but they're obviously running longer and longer. And that might be minuscule, but if you keep looking at the temperatures that were last year, a significant amount of electricity was used to just heat those little heaters.
That's a little bit different of a conversation than what we're talking about now. Because we're looking at individual bills for transitioning over. But to do my best to answer your question, for all of you that are aware, in the meadows, in the twins of a meadow, there is a sprinkler system. And what we did, maybe this time last year, maybe during the summer, was we made sure that that space was protected and had a heater in that space that was set to, would you say, 45? Somewhere in that particular range. Why did we keep it to 45 degrees? Because that's what the manufacturer told us to set it to. It wasn't a random number that we had. Why did we do that? Because we wanted to make sure that none of the sprinklers burst as part of this endeavor, which none of the sprinklers burst in this very cold winter due to this endeavor. So although there was some increase in rates, I'm looking at that as a win overall. Now, if there is a way that we can take a look and identify that and say your bill went up a significant amount, then we can have that conversation. We can see what that would look like. I don't know that answer. Our expectation was and is that it was not so significant that we would have to make that much of a deal out of it. If that is different than what our initial expectation was, then that's a conversation that we can have. That's what I would say there.
So on that, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So on that note, is there any way to tell? Because it's not all units that have that. So is there any way to tell that amount specifically from the electric bill?
Not from me, but I don't know. That's something that we can look at. I'm sure Lou has a mathematical formula that he has laid out, but that is a separate topic.
Okay, but if it's significant, would there be some sort of adjustment for the units that have them?
Yeah, as I said, we had an expectation going into the winter that the difference would be minimal based on usage and based on what it takes to run those systems. Our conversations with our electrician of the amount of energy that would be used in those spaces, we had in our minds from that formula a very limited amount of money would be the difference. A couple of dollars here and there. Nothing significant that we would need to adjust. If it's hundreds of dollars is the difference, if somehow we find out that's the difference, that's a conversation that we can have. And that's what I could say.
So then my other question is, so when we get the percentage of rent increase, would that automatically increase the electric as well?
Are you talking about in fiscal year 27, so starting July 1st, or are you talking 28?
I don't know, I'm just saying, I'm not saying this year when it goes up, but if we sign on is what I'm saying.
So, how I would envision this is there's a very good chance we will have a rate increase on July 1st of this year, right? So, if you want to sign up, you provide us with your past 12 months of your electric bills. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's helpful for it to stick sometimes when you repeat yourself, for me at least. What we would do is we'd take your bills, we'd work with our energy supplier and our finance team, and we would provide you with a proposal and say, we're going to increase your monthly fee by X amount. But you're not going to pay PECO anymore. That bill's coming directly to us. And you can, worry less about those monthly bills, and you wouldn't have to keep an eye on your system as much, and you could be comfortable in your setting to the degree that you would want to be. That would be that would be active for however long we lay it out. I believe it's going to be a year. And then looking ahead, my assumption, I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm not trying to project this out for the next 3, 4, 10 years. My assumption is that whatever you would be paying in that monthly fee would then increase by whatever the fiscal year 28 increase would be. It wouldn't be, all right, your electric bill went up $100, so therefore your rate's going to go up $100 plus your monthly fee. That's what I would say. That's my assumption. No, I would not look at it separately. I would look at it in this 12-month period of time. Yes, separately. A regular rate increase plus whatever this would be. And then we would take, my assumption is that we would take that lump sum going into 2 years from now, fiscal year, and that your rate would increase off of whatever your rate is moving forward as a lump sum. That would be my assumption. The comment was, we would have to think about that. That's the whole point of this. The whole point of this is to talk about it, to answer your questions, and to think about it. This, and again, some of the things that you've heard as it relates to changing your temperatures to be a little bit uncomfortable because you don't want to pay a certain amount and you're worried about bills. We've heard other items like that we believe that this is eventually going to take care of as a whole. So that's part of why we're doing this. And given the fact that it's a change, it's new, and it's something that we are evolving to, we want to do it as respectfully as we can for each of you. So that's why we're doing it in this way that is a little gray, that's a little muddy, and that isn't so clean, because we want to do it respectfully based on how you're living your lives now, what you're paying now, and what changes can look like. So we're going to try and do this individually with every one of you that wants to raise your hand and take a look at this. In my mind, there is no risk in writing your name on that sheet and saying, Mike, I want you to talk to us. Here are my bills. Give me a proposal, and we'll talk. There is no risk in that. And that's what I would suggest that you do.
And if you change your mind?
And if you change your mind, well, what you would be signing up for is that year's worth period of time. And that's all I know at this juncture, Judy. If you're 3 months in and you say, I don't want to do this anymore, and we'd say, really, Judy? We just signed up. Come on, give it a shot.
Okay, so two things. Am I doing this right again? Am I doing this right? Okay. So how would this be any different than if we put ourselves on a budget plan with PECO ourselves? Because they're just spreading those high rates that we get in the winter months through the rest of the year, those 7 or 8 months. And then I have one more, maybe you could answer it. You may have answered it with Dottie's question when you talked about structural issues. We can't even get to the set temperature on certain days. We have to use space heaters to do that. So we're trying to wrap our heads around this as to how that would work, since if we really wanted to be comfortable, we'd have to turn our heat up more so. It would never shut off. So that's what our big concern is, about whether or not that can be fixed.
So I can't speak to your specific unit individually, but what I would generally say, and I don't know if you guys have, so I'm not keeping track on every specific unit across campus, but what I would generally say is, if your system isn't working to its capacity and you think that there is something wrong with it, then reach out to us. We will come out, and we will take a look, and we will see if the system's working properly. And if there needs to be an adjustment, or if there needs to be a replacement, then we can act from there. So that would be my general statement, again, not knowing your specific history. As it relates to your initial question related to, well, why don't I just work this out with PECO? You can. I don't have a retort to that. My retort is, we are moving in this direction. We're moving in this direction for the reasons that I stated, and this isn't a must that I'm bringing to you today. This is an offer that I'm bringing to you today.
So you want us to formally bring to you our situation?
Yes.
But I think that she's been saying that in meetings for the last few years.
I'm going to put a pin in that for a second, and then I'm going to see if I can bring it to some other individuals who have their hands raised. So I will come back to you.
More of a comment than a question. One, I would sign up to talk to you, not necessarily sign to agree to it. No. And I guess the quick question, the thing I have is, and how you would approach it. I did the 2-year average, because when you go online, you can get your last 2 years of bills from PECO, the numbers. So I did that. Now this year, due to the extreme weather, the bill was $20 a month average higher than the year before. Now you're talking about taking that $20 higher and throwing it on, adding money on top of that to give to us, which the odds are we're not going to have that same cold winter again like we had. So the electric bill should not get up there, hopefully, other than if PECO gets their big increase that they want, that they've requested. That's in the works too. That's in the works. The other thing in reference to the heat in the garages for the system, we have a place in the mountains, and over the winter we keep the heat at 45, but we also have a heater doing basically the same thing in an area that you have. So we have 2 heaters. The heat ran, set at 45. Our electric bill was $20 a month higher, average. So there was 2 things running, just the thing for it to keep the water and the heat in the cabin. So how much does that affect? I'm got a little issue with maybe it only being a couple bucks from what you're saying. But I can't prove anything. So I'm just mentioning that.
Mike, the PECO has already asked for 11% and 15% effective January 1st. Politicians are in disagreement with it right now, but guaranteed they're going to get a raise. The other issue that I have is that you're already doing that with the people who live here. So you should be able to basically give us a comparison of what this group is fluctuating on per year as far as electric is concerned. So you should have a general idea of what the electric's running in here, where you're dispersing X number of dollars on their rent as it is. So that would be my question is, can we see something of that nature to make a determination?
Let me see if I understand your statement in question. So first off, as far as the PICO rate increase, agreed, there isn't much we can do with that, except I think Percy's trying to do a little bit of work on that, which I appreciate. So thank you, Percy. As far as so let me see if I can lay this out to the best of my knowledge. So is your question, hey, we are already paying PICO electric bills. Can we get some sort of sense as to what residents here are paying, specifically Oak Tree, Magnolia House, et cetera? What percentage? I think it's something that we can look at. I don't know that answer. I wouldn't be able to get it for you, but that doesn't mean someone else that we work with couldn't. So it's a worthwhile question. Hold on. 1, 2, 3.
At one of the meetings before, Mike, you had said you were going to, and I'm assuming with this person you have out there, that you're going to be able to negotiate because of a group rate. Is that true?
That's our aim. Yes, that would be our aim.
Now, my other question is, then I assume the more of us that go in, the cheaper that could be? And do you know the percentage, like if only 25% of us go in this year, then I had a, my other question is, if eventually 100% go in, would maybe our bill actually come down then because?
It's a good question. It's a nice thought. So I can't, so last Coffee and Conversation, Steve Muller provided a little bit of a technical overview of how we could, what we could install that would enable us to essentially provide this and save money in the long run with regard to electric bills. If 25 years from now, when you all may not be in your accommodations anymore, would we be able to then reduce rates? I would say, we'll see 25 years from now if that would be a feasible thing to do. Realistically, probably not.
I wanted to address the issue of the sprinkler heating thing. My son actually compared their kilowatt usage from last year to this year, and it was exactly the same. Although PICO rates had increased by 11%, and that's why the bill went up, but it was not the heater itself.
Hey, there's a win. I like that.
This is just 2 comments. Geothermal, Wanda and Bill, if your system is not able to hit the temperature you've set it at, either your auxiliary heat is off or it is not functioning properly, and get maintenance to get the guys in here to look at it. The other comment is someone had asked about the consultant company you're using, A1 Energy. They've been in business 20 years working with commercial, industrial, manufacturing, hospitals, government facilities, municipalities, and senior living communities.
I didn't know all that. How did you know about A1? It was online, right at your fingertips.
I was thinking, Garden Spot has an overall that, yeah. So that would be a comparison right there. And is that based on their size of the units, of the individual units?
Do you know those answers? I don't. So from what I understand, that was when they started. It was all included. So I don't know how easy or challenging it would be to get that sort of answer, because there might be 1 meter for the building or 2 meters for the building, and then at that point, it's hard to know who's doing what.
Well, what I'm saying is they don't do individual. No. And I'm assuming, you assume that we will not do individual. I wouldn't, as a business, want to run 50 different prices for everybody. Yeah.
That's how we would have to start, though.
Right.
You know, if it were something where everyone raised their hand and said, "I'm in," well, then we would have a different story. But that's most likely not going to be the case. So what we're proposing is to do it individually with everyone in this sort of fashion. Again, would we prefer to ultimately? No. We'd prefer to say, "Sorry, guys, come on board." But that's not the right thing to do for you or for anyone else in this room. So that's why we're trying to go about it this way.
At Garden Spot, what is their heating systems? Do you know what they actually heat with? Because that can make a huge difference. If they're not heating with electric in any way, if it's gas, natural gas or something, then everyone can be together real easy, because the bills aren't going to vary very much. In this system, especially in the Meadows, there are places all over the place. Every year you have someone with a $700 bill or $695 bill. Okay, it's like whack-a-mole. We've been doing it for 9 years here. Okay, so that makes a huge difference of how easy it was to make that change.
Well, they didn't make a change, from what I understand, Lou. So it wasn't a change. It was they started that way, right?
Yeah, so Garden Spot does have a mix of natural gas and electric, like split units. They don't have. They definitely don't have any geothermal, but they do have split units. Yeah.
We also have just a few residents. Anybody here who has oil heat? A couple of residents that have oil heat. You're a whole other ball of wax. I don't know what to do with you right now.
With transfer the bills from individual cottage to Frederick, who would handle determination, and what would occur with the balance of money that is owed or on file for the surplus coming up?
That's a good question. Who would handle the termination? That would be something that we would organize on our end. And if there is a credit or a bill due, is that what you're asking on the previous? I don't know that answer. I think we would discuss that with you individually and your individual proposal. That's what I would say. Before we can answer as many questions as you would like. I have no issue with doing that. But just as a pause, it is noon. We've been doing this for an hour, believe it or not. And I would like to just refresh the idea of this and the why. We're not doing this for any particular reason. It's a bit of a challenging endeavor that we're undertaking. But the rationale is we aim to ultimately have a process where residents aren't concerned. Residents don't reduce their comfort for fear of having a high bill. That residents can eliminate that concern from their day-to-day lives. That we can have access to an understanding of how your systems are working right at our fingertips so that we can proactively handle things. And that ultimately, we can reduce the amount that this community spends on electricity by bundling it all together. That's our hope. That's our aim. Our aim is not to make your lives uncomfortable. Our aim is not to dupe anyone, certainly not that. Our aim is to share this information with you, hope that you're interested in taking that small step, and seeing if what we propose to you is something that you would like to do for the next year. That's all.
When you speak about you're willing to make changes for the people who are having some problems, I guess my question is, there are many problems. The coil, the windows, the vents located on the inside wall instead of the outside wall, the insulation in our place, especially upstairs, that is blown all around, and the tubing that goes through, your ductwork that goes through is out of the insulation. Are you willing to change all of those things in order to make it a better place?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Are we willing to rip your house down to the studs and build it back up? No. No. We're not willing to do that. That's not a feasible thing to do. Is that what you're asking? No. We get that too. Are we committed to understanding each person's unit and making appropriate changes to the best of our ability within reason? Yes. So that's how I would answer that question. Unsatisfying, I know. But it is. But it is. Because, yes, there are some consistencies that can be improved from residence to residence. Yes, I agree with you there. And are we taking steps to understand what those are? Yes. Are we going to aim to fix them? Yes. But are we going to agree on every single thing that is either a problem or not a problem? We're probably going to disagree on a few things. Fair?
Does that mean that each individual will have a different rate if we opt in? And the second question is, how do you determine what the rate is for the new residents, since all new residents have to opt in?
So for you all, yes, you would have an individual offer. So Percy, I would come to you and say, we're going to increase your monthly fee by $30 a month. Maybe you get 29 instead of 30. You get your individual increase based on your individual usage. If I'm Mike and I'm moving into the community and I get my cottage on July 1st, we're going to determine that differently. We're going to determine it based on what type of unit you have. I have a 2-bedroom. It's this amount of square feet, and here is the rate that we're going to increase that monthly fee by. So for you all, it would be individualized. For people moving in, it would be based on those specific factors. It wouldn't be so customized. It would be based on square footage and unit type. Do we know what those factors are? Yeah. So it would be the type of unit, right? Like I said, there's 15 different types of cottages that we have on campus. Not yet. That's what we're going to get to. Do we know those exact increases and what those rates would be? No. I don't have a number for you right now, but that's what we're working toward. Man.
This is an easy one. Do you need both pages of the bill or the second page with all the gory details?
Al said second page will do. For the bill, do you need both pages or just the second page? I would say give us the whole thing. You never know. I know, Al said the second page, but I'm going to say give us the whole thing. It was just related to if we give you the PICO bill, do you need just the second page or do you need all of it? Al and I had different answers.
I have said this before. You can go into PICO, use your email address as your ID, create your own password. For the last 3 years, I have every month, with every day, exactly how many kilowatts I've used, okay? And some days, it was 120 kilowatts, okay? That easily shows issues, okay? So if you've never done it, it'd be a good thing to try to do, although the winter's almost over now, okay?
In summary, it seems like there are all variables and nothing definite. And that makes me a little concerned and uncomfortable. And I'm feeling that in the future, and I certainly can't say how far into the future, everybody will be required to go into this.
Eventually, yes. All of you? That one I don't know. That's what I'm going to genuinely say I don't know. Are there a multitude of variables? Yes. The aim is to make a multitude of variables so that we don't just shove this down your throat. That's right, like, so that we're not saying, okay, here's a very clear answer of what we're doing and when we're doing it. We don't want to do that. Therefore, what it requires is variables. And that's why we want to work with anyone that wants to work with us individually to craft a specific offer to each one individually. So I understand that. I wish I could give you very clean information that you all wanted to hear. But I think this is an important thing to move forward. And I think providing a lot of wiggle room is the best that we can do it right now.
I would say that, you know, if you guys showed up over here, it's because you have some type of interest. It wouldn't hurt anything if you just like write your name here and then we could talk about it, because you're not signing up for like anything yet. All you're doing is signing up saying, hey, I'm interested to just know how much it's gonna be if I sign up. Because once we look through the stuff, we'll be able to come up with the fee and how much it's gonna be, like the budget thing that she's talking about, somebody mentioned. And then you could decide if it's something you want to join or not. So right now it's just like, hey, I'm interested. You guys showed up. You're interested in knowing more. Let's go from here.
Well, if we do sign up for this, will we be able to, at request, view our usage? Is that something you're going to maintain for?
Would you be able to, in this instance, review your usage? Yes. Yeah, because in this instance, right, what we would do is we would turn the bill from going to your house to ours, and then, you know, your account to ours. So we would be able to view your space individually. Eventually, in the same way that we do in the rest of this building, right? If you live in Magnolia House, it's not, hey, we're looking at this unit's usage. It's the building itself. So eventually, we wouldn't be able to do that, or it wouldn't be as easy.
When I came here 10 years ago, they promised us geothermal. Somebody didn't dig the hole deep enough. And guess what? That's where we are now. We wouldn't have needed that at all. We'd have geothermal. Geothermal. Yes, geothermal. We were promised that when I came here 10 years ago. Somebody didn't dig the hole deep enough. We wouldn't have this conversation right now if they did.
Well, I don't know how to go from there. I can't say for sure that we didn't dig the holes deep enough. From what I understand, I can't say. I can't say.
But that's what they told me when I signed up, geothermal.
You keep pointing to the podium. Do you have a sign-up sheet there? We do. Okay.
How about one more question, since we're getting a little long in the tooth here in this one. I got a couple of hands raised. All right, 3 more questions, and we're done.
So for the first month, you're going to have a bill of a certain amount. Does anybody believe that they're going to be paying less than what they're electric use is going to be. Is Frederick going to pay part of your bill, or are you going to have to pay enough to pay your whole bill? So it looks to me like you're going to have to pay more per month than what your bill actually is. And the second month, the second year, everybody's going to be increasing their electric use because they're not going to have to see a bill each month. So they're not going to be reminded that here is an electric bill is just going to be your monthly Frederick bill. So they're not going to be concerned with keeping their air conditioning turned higher in the summer for less use and their heat turned lower for less use. So Frederick's going to come back the next year and say, oh, everybody's using more electric, we have to raise your bill again. And I have never seen anything suggested of a way that we're going to get any benefit from a reduced electric rate that we get the benefit. I think the only way this can happen is if we each have individual meters and Frederick gives us a bill each month and they show us transparency that here's what we pay and here's what you use. There's no reason we can't have individual electric meters.
That was a lot to respond to, and I have two more questions. Let me see if I can pass this off. Barry, you're out.
Is there a no-go figure on Frederick Living as to whether this is going to go or not? Is there a go or no-go figure, percentage-wise? No, if one person. Okay.
Question was for this iteration, right? Is there a no or no-go? No, if one person wants to join, we're gonna do this with one person. If 99 want to join, we'll do it with 99 and anything in between.
Second thing, I assume that all meters will be read on the same day for anyone that opts in.
I don't know that answer. I would assume too, but I would assume. That's what I'll say. Last one?
I had a quick question. Our water bill is included with our rent. So isn't this the same idea? Like, we may use more water than somebody else, but we're all paying the same amount. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay.
Yep. Better be quick. Better be quick.
I haven't been here for a year, so do you need a year's data, or can you extrapolate it from the 8 months I've been here, or whatever it is?
We're going to do with whatever we can get. So most people, fortunately, have been here for a year or more. If for individuals, you've only been in your cottage for 8 months, you say? 8-ish? We can't go back to the previous resident, and we can't go to PECO and say, give us the usage. We've already tried. They say, no, it's not you, so you can't get it. So we'll get what we can, and we'll do the best with what we got. Thank you for your time, everyone. Listen, we encourage you to just sign up. Have a conversation with us. We'll talk about your place individually, and we'll give it a shot. Thank you for your time and your attention, and we're here for questions as they continue. Thank you.